welcome to the Tunepact Podcast. I'm your host, the punk rock pop, Leigh Pierce. And today we're going to be talking about creative video production, and we've got the perfect guest for this. Please welcome to the show, the Phantom from the Phantom A.D. Welcome to the show. Could you take a minute and please introduce yourself to everybody?
This is the Phantom, baby. So I go by the Phantom. My band is the Phantom A.D. I normally talk in that pro wrestling kind of voice when I do interviews, but I think because we're talking about kind of behind the scenes stuff, I'll give you more of the real deal. But I play what I call ghoulish rock and roll, which is music inspired by rock and roll of the 1950s and 60s, but ghoulish.
Yeah, and that's how I found you was on social media. It was MK Ultra Rock. And I was just telling him it's a fantastic song. I can't stop listening to it. Your stuff is so unique, especially what we've got you here to talk about today. Your music videos, not just your long form ones that you do like a regular, what people think of when they, stereotypical music video, but your short marketing, your promotional stuff that you put on social media is so clever. How long have you been, working with doing your own video production?
As far as the social media stuff goes, I would say it's been about 2 years. And like all things, the first attempts were not successful. I remember with some of the guys I play music with, we got together to shoot this thing, and I was like, all right, now I kind of realized that it almost sounds obvious now, but it wasn't obvious to me because when I came up, social media was like MySpace and stuff. And I've never been that tech savvy of a person. I don't spend time on scrolling TikTok or anything like that. So I sort of realized that video was where it's at. That's the most sort of reliable way to build a fan base without kind of relying on gatekeepers or anything like that. So the first time we shot something, we put a lot of effort into it, and it really did not do very well. Didn't get a lot of views or engagement. And, we just made a lot of mistakes. We shot it horizontally, that's a mistake. We're in the world of vertical video. We kind of, it sounds funny to say, but we almost took too much time with it. It's the vibe these days is quick and easy.
They're low tech, and because it almost feels like I want to say lower quality, because all phones shoot 4K or 8K now. It's ridiculous, but it seems the faster you shoot, it's got that behind the scenes, that realism that people want. That's why there's influencers. People just want to watch real life. It's reality TV. It's everything. So yeah, when you do those more quick, lower quality, you're not doing a lot of editing to it. You're like, hey, we're shooting it, and that's what we're putting up. It always seems to come out, well, it is. It's more real. It's more fun, too. And I think that's what drew me to your videos and why I wanted you on for this topic. So thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is going to be cool.
All right. So I'll probably go off script a lot here. I was kind of excited once I get talking here. So obviously you talked about pro wrestling, and I love the pro wrestling voice you do, and that's what a lot of your videos remind me of, is that fun. And like you said, it works because of who you are, though, too. You're not the tech savvy social media guy, even though that's what I know you as, is the social media guy. But that gives you almost that intentional kind of awkward outsider vibe that sticks out from everybody else doing these overly polished. They got 6 filters on it. Even me, I purposely painted a wall. I got a perfect, background for what I'm doing. And you go out there and do this, and it gives such a cool look because it does stand out. And like you said, you realize the first one it was too polished. It didn't do what you want. What was the deciding factor to just shoot from the hip and have fun with it?
Well, keep trying. The first time we did something, it was just that was like sort of, and I guess I've shot videos and stuff before, but this was like my first attempt at doing something specifically geared towards social media, and it was discouraging, and I probably didn't do it again for a few months. Um, but then I got more ideas for how to do it. I kind of well, here's sort of an interesting story, I guess, is so obviously I'm a big fan of music, especially music from the '60s, and I live in the California Bay Area, but I have family in Los Angeles, and I was in Los Angeles visiting family, and I saw that Nancy Sinatra was doing a meet and greet. Who is a singer, is Frank Sinatra's daughter, but of course had her own career and most known for the song "Boots Are Made for Walking." But she was doing a meet and greet, um, and I decided to go to that and get some, be a fanboy and get a record signed or whatever, and meet her. And I ran into a friend from high school there who I hadn't seen in years, and he mentioned that he um, does marketing for a major record label. And he did give me some advice, but I found that none of that advice was relevant for me at all. Like it was stuff that I couldn't possibly do even if I wanted to. Um, but it did plant the seed of music marketing, that's sort of something I needed to be thinking about, because I was kind of using the outdated way of thinking of like I'll just play shows, and by doing shows that are good, somehow I'll get a break, and that will go somewhere. And that's kind of the story we've all heard and grown up with, but that's not really. That's like winning the lottery or something. It's like it could theoretically happen, but it probably won't. But anyway, so I got the idea of music marketing because I ran into this guy, um, and then I just started Googling and researching it, and then I came across the idea of doing like basically what are mini music videos, which will just be like me lip syncing a verse and chorus of a song. And I started doing that, and I've had a lot of success with that, especially recently. And I think the kind of key elements that I've identified are interesting foreground and interesting background. And then that's just it. You're just lip syncing, so you need some kind of like software or something that can put the studio recording of your song over the audio, over the video you just shot. But that's pretty much it. And I do it myself, and I'm not very tech savvy, and I don't have any training or particular skills with computer or editing. And I found like if you I recently shot something at the Salem Witchboard Museum.
I was
And
just gonna ask you about that. That was awesome. It was so on brand. I loved it.
yeah, well, the guys that so I played a show in Salem, um, Massachusetts, and the guys that I still do everything myself. I book my own tours and stuff. Um, but the guys that booked the show, one of them was the owner of and he played in the band I played with too, but he was the owner of the Salem Witchboard Museum. So I got a private tour, which was pretty cool, and he had all these wild stories about how everything in there was haunted, and they were trying to get me to sit in this haunted chair, which I refused to do. But anyway, they were nice enough to let me shoot a video there, and so I'm just singing my song "I Go Where the Party Takes Me" in this setting. And the lighting was bad. Like the lighting was so bad that the footage is actually grainy. But it worked. It didn't really matter because people still responded to it. And it also, that works for me because my vibe is kind of like low budget, like retro horror kind of stuff. So that the grainy stuff fits me perfectly. Um, but I guess the point I was trying to make is it has an interesting background because I'm in this museum of Ouija boards or witch boards. So it just looks crazy in there. And then I also dress in a certain way. Like you mentioned pro wrestling. I'm definitely really influenced by pro wrestling and how those characters were always exciting to look at and exciting to listen to, just even talk. You know, if you listen to an interview with I guess I'm talking about maybe more like what people call golden era pro wrestling, but if you listen to an interview with Macho Man or with Ric Flair, it's like these guys they talk insane, like they're saying crazy stuff, their voices are crazy. um so I'm so anyway, I'm wearing a cape, I always do, and various other things. I should also mention Screamin' Jay Hawkins and Sam the Sham and other rock and roll musicians that I'm influenced by had a strong visual component too. But anyway, so the background is interesting. That's the Witchboard Museum. The foreground is interesting, which is me with sunglasses on, in a cape, all this stuff. And those are kind of the two elements. And then it was just, usually my girlfriend shoots all the stuff on this iPhone. But I had she wasn't there because she just didn't want to go to something creepy like that. But one of the guys that was there with me shot it, and he kind of followed me with the camera. So instead of just like holding the camera, he's kind of walking it with me. And I noticed that is helpful too, because it kind of gives like a PO point of view kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm just like, it's almost like you're watching it through the lens instead of, that was a mistake I made too with the first video, was we used a tripod. And I kind of eventually learned that's not really the vibe for Instagram and TikTok is tripod. It's like handheld is where it's at. So yeah, I've had a decent amount of success getting a lot of traction with videos like that. There's also kind of another thing I've seen other people do, which I haven't done yet, but I really want to, which is basically the same thing, except it's a live show. And I've seen a lot of these videos going off, where it'll just be like an artist or band like performing on the street or some random location, and it'll be like a handheld camera again, and it kind of looks like the vibe is like, oh, like whoever is filming this just like happened to walk on this, and here they are, like they're filming it on their phone, even though I'm sure it's probably always more like premeditated and scripted than that. But I've seen a lot of those videos, and I want to start doing that. But of course, it is harder to pull off, because a lot of these videos I just shoot myself. So for that one, I need the band with me. We need to be performing somewhere. So there's a lot more elements than just being anywhere that has an interesting background and being able to shoot. Anyway, that was kind of a long, rambling answer, but hopefully there was some stuff in there that was valuable.
Well, no, and you brought the point about where you shot it at the Witchboard Museum is perfect, because it's on brand for you, and especially small business owners are going to love, like, especially if you tag them and, you know, hey, people are getting to see where this is. It's always a good way of networking and making connections too, because now they're going to be interested in your music. You know, if it wasn't the case like you, it was someone that you knew already through music, but just going in and finding the spots like that is really, it's just such a good idea. And it worked out so good for you because it's so on brand. And the graininess and the way he shot it like this, it works with the rhythm in that song, because it gives off such like an original like Munsters vibe. I just love it. That video is so great that you shot there. It's just I can hear it in my head now. I can hear that song now. I'm gonna have to listen to it as soon as we're done today.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess if I'm thinking of the perspective of somebody else, it's like, okay, maybe shooting in a Ouija board museum is not the right vibe for you, but it could be just at a beach or in nature. Or I definitely like places where you don't have to ask anyone permission or do that. You know, there I did, or they actually offered to me, but there's plenty of, you know, outdoor places where you can just shoot something and you don't have to ask anyone or do, you know, anything like that. And I've done that too in cemeteries and outside of buildings. Like kind of similarly, also recently I did the same song, but I was in Memphis, so I shot it outside of the Stax Records thing. Same thing. I just showed up there and we did it, and it took 2 minutes, and we were out of there.
That's awesome. I love that. It's kind of the old school guerrilla filmmaking and marketing, do it on the spot. Yeah, and as long as you can film anything from the street. So you go ahead and shoot. You don't have to ask permission. Of course, going in places and stuff you do. But no, and let's want to go back to what you were saying about doing the handheld. Like, yeah, I mean, even influencers now, it's not a tripod anymore. It's handheld, even back to the selfie sticks, which is just surprising. You thought a selfie stick would end up, no longer, feasible in today's world, but it's people are back to that, all the videos you see that are going viral, it's when people are talking and they're walking somewhere. It's never somebody sitting and talking like we are. So you transfer that over to the music side of it is really cool and unique. I don't see a lot of bands doing that. Now, did that just feel like it was the right thing to do, or did you kind of fall into that through trial and error?
A little bit of both, definitely. I didn't invent the idea of mini music video. I did come across that through researching online, like I mentioned. After I ran into that friend, I just Googled music marketing, and I got, a lot of stuff came up. Some of it was good, some of it wasn't. But that was an idea that I felt like I could do, and I guess it does work really well for me because even though I am a rock musician and I do play with a band, it is more mm, like I don't need the whole band to do stuff like that. Whereas probably most rock bands do, which makes it harder. If you need your bass player and your drummer and your everything there, I just need me there. Um, so that does make it easier for me, but I guess it's really easy to pull off for any kind of solo artist. For a band, definitely still doable, but I mean, you could do it with just the singer. Um,
So, what when it comes to the different platforms, is there one that you've I think I found you on TikTok. I think is where I first came across you, possibly. But is there one that you found works best for the short form videos that you do?
Yeah, surprisingly, I usually have the best results on Instagram. And I say surprisingly because TikTok is the kind of like the app that made short form video a thing as we know it. And I have gotten some, good like view counts on TikTok, but I usually consistently do better on Instagram. And I've even had a few things do really well on Facebook, which people are often surprised to hear because a lot of people are like, I didn't know anyone still uses Facebook, but people absolutely do still use Facebook. In fact, um, that's actually my preferred social media app if I'm scrolling myself, but maybe that's because I'm a certain age. But I have had stuff get like 500,000 views on Facebook, which is pretty shocking. Um, and the one that I've had the least success with is YouTube Shorts, where I've never had anything get more than like 1,500 views on there. Yet I still meet people who say I found you on YouTube Shorts, which is always surprising to me because I'm like, well, there's relatively speaking not very many of you that see me on there. Yet I've met numerous people that have said that.
Yeah, YouTube's algorithm is so hit and miss. I wish I knew more about algorithm. Actually, my next guest that I'm filming with next week is we're doing a one about algorithm. It's actually having a computer person come on and talk, a programming person come on and talk about algorithms because I don't get it. When you think you're doing right, all of a sudden it's gone. You're not on the FYP. You're not coming up, especially with the YouTube Shorts. I can't put my finger on it and figure out what it is. And yeah, like you said, TikTok kind of started the short form video. I mean, they almost killed YouTube, until YouTube started doing the shorts. And now you see a lot on the Instagram and the Facebook, the reels, the stories, the short, and everything like that. And I know Meta is way easier to monetize too. So it's nice that the short form video is coming from TikTok, which is way harder to monetize, to Facebook and Instagram, where artists can actually make a little bit more money. I mean, it might be $5 here, $10 here, but that's a little bit of gas in your tank when you're on the road between gigs, you know. So I know that's a big help. And I'm like you. I'm also my other job. I do a social media manager for a record label. So I'm on my phone for my job a lot, and I'm surprised at the comeback of Facebook. It kind maybe it's again I'm 49, so it does lend itself to the Gen X and the older generation. You know, I remember I was talking to one artist, and they're like, I asked if they were on Facebook, and they just gave me this look, and they're like, how old do you think I am? I'm like, wow, how old do you think I am? I didn't realize Facebook was just for old people now.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, and it could be like my music appeals to people of all ages, which is I'm pretty proud of actually because I didn't um expect that or realize that, but because I play older styles, so a lot of older people like my music, but a lot of young people like my music too. Like I met my number one Spotify listener on the tour I just did, and she was a teenager, and I had a lot of other teenagers come to my shows, which is really cool. But I have a lot of older fans as well. Um, so the older fans are definitely on Facebook. But if you were doing a style that had zero appeal to older people, like maybe SoundCloud rap, is that even still a thing? I don't know. But
I hope not.
yeah, but maybe there's not fans of that on Facebook, but certainly for any kind of like older style of music.
Yeah, kind of rockabilly. I love and see I love old. I grew up listening to Beach Boys and Ramones, and then got into the rockabilly and psychobilly and stuff like that. And I love the old simple surf rhythms. Like I'll even just listen to old. I love going like thrifting and finding old instrumental surf from artists I've never heard of and just listening to it. It's so great, and it works so well with your style of music and your whole brand too, because it's always got that mellow kind of bop along to, and it gets you all of a sudden. I'm watching your video and I'm doing what you're doing. I'm like, damn it, he's good at this. I like that.
Yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, I guess it's it's really just the music I wanted to play, and I don't know why this is because I would sometimes try to like psychoanalyze myself, and I think even when I was a child, there was still oldies radio. There's not really now, at least in where I live, but there was when I was a kid, and that's what I was drawn to was the oldies radio. I didn't want to hear the new hits. I want to hear the oldies. And then same thing when I went to the video store. Maybe you can guess my age because I'm talking about the radio and video store and stuff. But I was renting like King Kong, like the original King Kong, and Godzilla versus Mothra, and all these weird old movies as a child. I don't know why I was picking those movies. I could have, picked, whatever that came out that year. So I've, for some reason, always just been very drawn to like older things and classic things. So I think my music reflects that. And I guess I'm also happy to say I've learned recently that appeals to people who are older than me and people who are younger than me and people who are my age and people who are into punk rock and people who are into surf rock and rockabilly and goth and different kind of subcultures.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of artists that enjoy playing music that they don't necessarily listen to. Just because it is more fun. I've always listened to I mean, a lot of music, all music I'll listen to. I've always loved punk, old crossover thrash and stuff like that. But I always liked playing in like punk grass and rockabilly bands because it's so fun. The music, it's just there's always a fun beat and the crowd always gets into it. And so like I see like I know you're an old punk guy too. I saw your post the other day about that. It was pretty cool. They'll picture you and stuff, and it's
Oh
fun
yeah.
seeing the. Well, I think every old punk goes through the rockabilly stage too, and some of us just never get out of it. They find where they belong. I know so many artists that did start in punk and ended up doing rockabilly, and it's so incredible. And I just love to see it. So you know what? Enough marketing. So you brought up
Yeah.
wrestling, And I see that for sure in your branding and your persona with the cape and your larger than life. So is that something that you intended to have as part of your branding and your, stage persona, or is it something that it's just you and it finally got to come out?
It's probably a little bit of both, but it definitely, I don't know, the ideas kind of like slowly trickle in. It's not like a light bulb moment, but like like I was saying earlier, I usually do interviews where I'm talking more like a wrestler. I'm more like, this is the Phantom, baby. We're talking about ghoulish rock and roll. But I figured because we were talking about more video and stuff, I would just not do that for an hour because it hurts my throat doing it for longer. But I guess when I watch or listen to interviews with artists, a lot of time I'm like, this is kind like it might be like a really exciting artist, but when I hear them talk, I'm like, this is kind of boring relative to like what I expect based off their music. But that the opposite was true with pro wrestlers. It's like if you see, especially going back to kind of golden era of wrestling, it's like those interviews are so nuts. Like the way those guys talk and carry themselves, it's like it's just as exciting as when they're in the ring. It's just hearing them in front of a camera being like, "Let me tell you something, brother. I'm gonna smash your head through the table," and it's just like crazy and it's cool. So I think that sort of evolved. I guess I can't say like this was when I decided to bring in a wrestling influence, but I don't know. It happened over time, I guess, and no one has ever caught this one, but I always open live shows wherever I am with, like let's say I'm in Oakland, California, which is close to where I am now. I'll be like, finally, the Phantom has come back to Oakland, which I, of course, got that idea from The Rock, who would say that after, anytime he was on the camera. But I'd never heard anyone, because sometimes people will come up to me and be like, oh, I know where you got that idea or whatever, but no one has identified that I got that from The Rock.
I'm really surprised because a lot, especially in genre like you, where it's more specialized. I don't want to say niche because it doesn't sound right, but like more of a specialized
Sure.
genre or even your own subgenre. Usually, things the artists are into other than their own music, the fans are too, because it's a very small knit community. So I can't believe nobody got that. I mean, love or hate The Rock, there's not many people that have ever been better on the mic than him. And like I'm with you, like I mean, I grew up watching back, Ultimate Warrior and Iron Sheik and all the way back. So like I could probably name 5 really great matches over the last 40 plus years I've watched. I could tell you 100 great promos that were shot in the last 10 years though. Like, cause that's what
Yeah.
always stuck with me. Cause I always loved that. I've always been a talker. That's how I got the job. So I could sit and watch old wrestling promos for hours and hours because that was when they were at their best, and that's what would make or break wrestlers. I mean, Hogan was never good in the ring. He was terrible. He looked like Frankenstein out there. They had no athletic ability, but he was so good on a mic. So no, seeing the wrestling influence, I absolutely love it. So who's your favorite all time? Who's your favorite all time? On
Oh
the
man.
mic. On the mic, not in the
On the
ring, on the
mic is
mic.
it's got to be Macho Man because uh he's just so like he's almost like every wrestler rolled into one, and just his outfits too. It's like before you even see him talk, just the way he's dressed is like, what is this guy gonna say? What is he gonna sound like? And then he starts talking, and it's like this is even crazier than the way he looks. And I also love this story about, so he came from a wrestling family. His dad was a wrestler. His brothers were wrestlers. And his brother says once he kind of came up with the Macho Man voice, he never heard his real voice again. And that's coming from his own brother.
Wow, I couldn't imagine that. I mean, even you talking about try to do your work voice for the podcast for a half hour is going to kill you. Can you imagine just living that? But I mean, so maybe that's he always felt like that's what he wanted. So now that I got it, let's roll with it. You know?
Yeah, that must have been it. I think because I I've heard he was a very like obsessive personality, so I think he was really wanted everything to be uh perfect, and so that makes sense that it's like once he locked in with this, that's it. This is the Macho Man. Oh yeah, never talking any other voice ever because he is the Macho Man. And what a guy.
Well, yeah, same as Undertaker was another one that would never break character outside of the ring. Even in restaurants, he wouldn't say a word and stuff. I saw a few documentaries about like Paul Bear messing with him and trying to get him to laugh and stuff, like pulling pranks, putting stuff in his food in restaurants, trying to get him to break that dead serious, and nobody could ever get him to break. He always stayed straight faced, you know, until he was completely retired. And now you'll see him talk on his podcast and stuff like that. But yeah, the ones that, especially the old school guys, they said that dedication, like they stayed in character, not as, you know, as much as like the Macho Man and stuff, but that's just awesome. And well, and it's fun just for same with musicians though, too. I mean, a lot of musicians, there's a stage persona, then there's the regular person. Like you said, you'll go to watch an interview with like a favorite artist, you'll be like, oh, wait, they're real. Like that's not what I was expecting. I didn't know there was a real voice there. I was expecting to hear this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, and yeah, there's that term in wrestling, kayfabe, which is like stay in character. I feel like there needs to be more kayfabe in other styles of entertainment.
Well, I think there used to be until social media. You know, nobody saw interviews unless somebody wanted to be interviewed, whether it was a movie star, TV star, a musician, an athlete. You didn't see them posting a video about what they had for breakfast. There wasn't,
Yeah.
you couldn't walk down the street. You didn't have a camera phone to be able to shoot a quick interview with somebody. That wasn't a thing. So there was always this mystique, which was always set us up for heartbreak when all of a sudden you found out, oh, wow, they're really not a good person when you do get to meet one of your idols or something because you had no heads up because there wasn't a social media. So I think nowadays it's impossible for artists to do that unless they stay off social media completely and or just keep just the brand. You know, they don't have a personal social media presence or anything like that. But that's not what fans want anymore. They want the behind the scenes. They want to feel close to the artist. You know, if it's just this thing, someone that feels larger than life, well, it's hard to be a part of that. So I think like what you do, I think you found that perfect mix between them. So like when you do like the little everybody does call it meet and greet when you're done playing and stuff and you're packing up for the night and people come up and talk to you. Do you try to keep with the stage persona or do you let it down a little bit afterwards or before, excuse me, before you go on stage?
I guess to an extent, people love to take photos with me, and I love to take photos with people, and I always do this pose in the photos. So I try to keep it fun, and so to that extent, I keep it up, but I'm not like greeting people like in the pro wrestling voice or anything like that. Although maybe I should, but
Maybe I think you should. Yeah, and get some videos of it too. Get some
yeah.
videos of you approaching people as in full force, you know, and get some videos of that. That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right. So, what advice do you got for any artists that they're stuck with their video production for social media, or whether it's that or long form stuff? What advice do you have for people that are they're stuck and they need a boost? You know, you found some people that helped you along. What do you got?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to quote another legendary person, and that's Bruce Lee, who famously said, "Be like water," and what that means is adapt. Like water will. You put water in a cup, it takes the shape of a cup. You put water uh, towards a rock, it'll go around the rock. Don't be so set in your ways, um, because like I said, I used to kind of I'd want to do it the old-fashioned way of like, I'm just gonna play shows and I'll post the flyer for the show on social media, and that's it, which is fine. But you can't build a fan base by just doing that. And I realized you can build a fan base by making videos. So I adapted and did that. And it's not like I was like, I'm going to practice guitar so I can make social media videos. That wasn't even something I was thinking about. But I adapted, and I realized that was the world we live in now. And you can build a fan base by doing the mini music videos, or like I mentioned, I haven't really done this, but the kind of like candid shot live videos. And I'm sure there's other strategies too, but you can build a fan base by figuring out these ways that will draw attention to yourself on social media. And again, I'd say figure out what you can do that's interesting and exciting for people that don't know who you are to see and be like, oh, this is cool, I want to get into this. And it probably won't be something that you would naturally want to do. Like I said, I wasn't like, man, I just recorded this song, I can't wait to make these mini music video promo clips. But I realized that is a great way to make fans and to grow. So you got to be like water, and you got to adapt to the situation that we're in.
Well, yeah, because I mean, your music stands out because it is very unique. But I don't know if I was scrolling through, if it was on the radio, if I would have stopped and listened to the whole thing. When I saw your video, I was like, oh, what is this? And it did catch my attention. And yeah, nowadays you got to have the short video. And if you want people to come to your shows, what better way to get them there than to give them a little sneak preview? Even if it's not the whole band, even if it's just you lip syncing, it's marketing. You're advertising not just you and your brand and your music that's you're lip syncing to. This is what the stage show's vibe is going to be like too. And people are going to be like, oh, all right, let's go check this out. Where they might not if they just hear the audio. So I think doing the short music videos is a really good idea because it's more, well, it's obviously it's eye catching. It's not ear catching. It does both, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess another good thing about it is I'm all about keeping things simple. Since I'm using, and anyone who does this technique is using the studio recordings for the video, you don't have to worry about getting good audio when you're doing this, which is obviously that's a whole art unto itself. Like if you're shooting a movie, you have a whole team doing the audio and you have a whole team doing the video. But if you're just using the audio, your studio audio, and lip syncing over it, that makes it a lot simpler. So again, it's kind of like adapting, and figuring out the easiest way to do stuff. Because who wants to, work? Who wants to do extra work for less results? Like work smarter, not harder.
Exactly, and especially, I mean, if you're shooting one of your long form, your full song, actual music videos, of course you got to worry about the audio production and the quality of it and everything like that. But when you're shooting a 10-second video, as long as it's your song, people don't have enough time to be able to pick apart, oh, this quality isn't that great. Having your music on hand to be able to do that and having the files ready and stuff like that is a huge help. But yeah, like you said, that's the nice thing about short form is it's not the lower quality the better, but the quality doesn't matter as much. It's the content itself, and that can be easy. It can be complicated, but it's up to you and the amount of time you want to put into it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I mentioned, I'm someone that, I can use a computer, but I don't have like a background in editing or film production or anything like that. And I've kind of managed to make this work for me. But if you do, you could probably do and I know some people do, but you could probably do way more complicated stuff. And that might be cool too. I think that, I guess it comes down to, not to just spout off buzzwords, but I know authenticity is something that it has to come off as authentic, and it has to come off as interesting. And I think if you can figure out a way to make those things work for you, whether you're just shooting on your phone with your girlfriend filming it like me, or if you like, your day job is working in TV or something. Either way, you can probably find a way to make it work for you.
Well, and there's so many free apps, I mean, that you can do video editing in. And as long as you're willing to, I mean, watch a YouTube video and you can figure out how to do some really fun little, the little choppy, fun editing and stuff. Like I've done that with different promos and stuff that I did when I had Hunter Jackson from Guar on. We shot. It was fun, but editing stuff in little get static and different stuff like that. Being able to just put those little jump clips in and stuff like that can take those little videos. Then it's not a whole lot. It takes you 15 seconds to shoot it and maybe 5 minutes to edit it together. As start compiling your own little list or on your computer, have a folder of just different clips you can reuse. Change them up a little bit. Let's grab these three, edit those together, and put that up. So you're not having to shoot new material every single time, but you've still got some really creative ones, and royalty-free stuff is great for that. I've used it whenever I've needed to, when I've been able to. And you've done some really cool stuff with that, too, with some of the old horror movies. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because that's really fun.
Yeah, so the main thing that comes to mind is I did a long form music video for my song "The Brain That Wouldn't Die," which is inspired by a movie also called "The Brain That Wouldn't Die," and that's a public domain movie, so you can do whatever you want with it. And I guess that's a cool factor of the vintage horror, which is a big part of my sound and vibe. Is that a lot of those movies are public domain. Obviously you got to check, but you can probably just Google it. Like, is this movie public domain? But a lot of them are, and a lot of the time it's for really funny reasons. Like, we were chatting before, but Night of the Living Dead is probably the most famous example, and one of the most famous movies of that era. But they changed the title of the movie right before it got sent out to movie theaters. It was, I forget what it was called, but it was called something else that was not as good before Night of the Living Dead, and they changed the name of the movie Night of the Living Dead right before it got sent to the theaters. And when they were editing the title card, they also edited out the copyright. So then because of that careless mistake, it's now a public domain movie, which is insane. Like, how could you make such a mistake like that? But it used to happen all the time. With there's if you look it up, there's like dozens, if not hundreds, of old horror movies that are public domain, and Night of the Living Dead is probably the most classic example because that's such an iconic movie where even if you haven't seen it, you've at least heard of that movie.
Of the era, just of the horror genre at all. I mean, Romero invented zombies. If people die on that hill. So I mean, yeah, that's probably the most famous horror movie, period, I would say. So for that to have the public domain issue because of the copyright is just hilarious. I did not know that before, so that is so funny.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where you're like, this can't be real or this can't be true, but it totally is. And a lot of them are like that. They just forgot to put it in the card, and because of the laws at that time and place, now it's a public domain movie, and you can do whatever you want with it. And there's some other movies like that, like White Zombie is like that. Rob Zombie's first band was named after, but it stars Bela Lugosi, who's one of my favorite actors. But that movie's public domain for similar reasons. And so is Brain That Wouldn't Die, which we basically green screened myself over various scenes in that movie for the music video. And that did take more production. Luckily, I have a lot of friends who are talented. That one I would not have been able to do myself. But I guess just being a musician, most of my friends are artists or musicians or work in some kind of creative field. So I'm fortunate to have friends that have the skills to shoot a music video like that. And that's pretty much how all of my proper music videos have been made, they've all been made by friends. I haven't like, I mean, I've hired friends, but I've never like sought out like a professional production company to shoot a music video, and I wouldn't recommend doing that, um, because that's expensive, and you're probably not going to see a return on investment. Again, that's sort of like the old way of thinking of like, okay, I'm an artist and now I need a music video, um, which is like, yeah, that's true if you're, uh, Britney Spears in 2003, but that, you'd be better off making, 20 short form content things on your phone probably than doing one big music video. Um, Generally speaking, that's probably true.
If you are hiring someone on that, like it's a production, usually if they have their own team too. So you're losing a little bit of creative control right there because they're only going to be able to do. That's the thing is, it's everybody can only do what they're seeing in their head. So it's never going to get exactly what you want. And there's nothing worse than, especially a longer form project like that, end up spending the time and the money and then not having to be exactly what you want. Because if someone else is doing it, it will never be exactly what you want. It might, it's rare. So yeah, sometimes having the short, lower quality, I want to call it lower quality, the short, easier to film and edit stuff is better if you got full control of it, because it might not be the quality you want, but it's going to be exactly the content that you want. And nowadays it seems that the world is heading much more, it's about the content than the quality, or the quality of the filming and the product, not the production value, it's the quality of the content itself. And having those, hiring someone, and like you said, yeah, it's expensive and you're not going to see the return on investment, especially in the music industry. Maybe if you're shooting a commercial for your business or something, it might be different. But yeah, you're not going to see that happen. So try to do that stuff yourself. Or like you said, man, hire your friends to do it. Nothing better than a friend's going to be more in sync with what your vision is than someone that you have to hire. And you might like their work, but that doesn't mean their work's going to work for you, or that your work's going to work for them. It might not be their fault or your fault. So yeah, look into that when you're doing video production. Do as much as you can yourself, and then make sure you're finding the right team to help you with it. So there's my big advice for the day.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And I guess the not that everything needs to be quantifiable, and the value of something isn't necessarily how many views it gets. But just to keep, so with that being said, it's like that music video that I shot, it only has like 2,000 views on YouTube, which is like not very many at all. And I think I posted like the video on social media and it got maybe like 5 to 10,000 views. Whereas like the thing at the Salem Witchboard Museum that has like over 100,000 views. And a couple things I've posted on Instagram have gotten like 500,000 views, which is crazy. But all that is to say, it's like the things that have gotten a lot more views have been the stuff that was just shot on my phone. Again, not that makes it better, and not that everything needs to be quantifiable, but that's worth keeping in mind. And it's also worth keeping in mind that even though I've had a video that got 500,000 views, I mean, that's awesome, but it's not like, well, I've got 500,000 views on this video, time to take that to the grocery store and buy groceries with that. It's like, it's cool. It is what it is. It's awesome. It definitely made me new fans, but it's not, you can't just hang your hat on that,
You never know why one video hits and the other doesn't. I mean, you could do as much analytics and research as you want. I mean, your best option is to figure out, what did I just post it at the right time of the day, and to make it hit the algorithm. It's not always what you shot; it's when you posted it. Sometimes, so yeah, try to have it that 500,000. The odds of being able to duplicate that again by doing something similar are so slim. So it's just keeping steady with it. You're always creating great content. It's always fun. It's always on brand, but it's always still just a little unique. I never scroll by because I always got to stop to make sure if it's one that I've seen or not, because your stuff, it's like I said, it's always on brand, but it's unique enough that it's going to catch somebody's um attention if they are scrolling through. Like, so I just kudos to you. I love what you're doing. It's a lot of fun seeing larger than life characters. It makes me happy. I know it makes, it makes the rest of your fans happy as well. So like, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I was like, everybody, a few minutes. What do you got coming up that you like to promote? Coming up, like say end of summer, fall time. What do you got?
Yeah, so I've got live shows coming up. That's mostly what I'm focusing on, and I'll keep doing the like videos as I get ideas and opportunities to shoot places. I'm not super like I've heard some people like have really like methodical like ways they handle posting. That's not me. That's not really my personality, but that's cool if you can make that work. But I'll continue posting stuff when I get opportunities to shoot something somewhere cool or come up with an idea. And then I've got live shows coming up in San Francisco, Arizona, and Las Vegas. Those are all in July, which is the month we're in right now. And then I've got a whole kind of slate of shows that I'm going to be doing in Halloween season too that I haven't announced yet, but keep an eye out for that.
I'm gonna get you up here to the Midwest because I got to see you live.
Oh yeah, I was just in the Midwest actually. Where are you based?
Southern Wisconsin, right by about 2 hours from Chicago.
Okay, I didn't make it up that way this time. The closest I got was Chicago.
Oh, okay.
But, and this is something maybe. So if someone has the answer to this one, I get this all the time. Is like, I just like I played a show in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, and then someone will comment on my thing. When are you finally gonna play Pittsburgh? And I'm like, I just did, and I probably won't be back there until next year at the earliest. But it just is what it is.
Yeah, for that, a big thing is, I mean, it's hard for an artist because you'd have to be members of like dozens and dozens of different Facebook groups. Is look up for regional Facebook groups like Midwest, Midwest Rockabilly or Northeast Rockabilly, and find those groups to be able to post in ahead of time would be your best bet for that. But I mean, I don't think there's a band in the world that hasn't had that happen. And nowadays, like I preach Facebook groups it's a really good way to make connections and network because there's some big people in the industry that are in those groups just for that reason, to network and to find what the next big thing could be. But yeah, if you're having trouble with stuff like that, first of all, that's it's what happens. It sucks. It's always gonna happen. I'm still the same way. I'm like, wait, what? My favorite band played 2 hours from my house and I didn't even know about it. How the hell? They're on my favorites on Facebook. How did I even miss it? But yeah, it's getting those local Facebook groups and stuff like that, and make sure on your whatever social media platform, like Facebook's good for that, is make events. Make sure, you're posting your whatever flyer, your digital flyer, whatever you've got, make sure you're posting that across all your social medias. Even like on TikTok where you can put pictures up, put your flyer up there, with your music as the, sound. That way it's still going to stop people. And sometimes doing stuff like that, all of a sudden you're like, why did a picture I put up get, 10,000 views on TikTok and then my videos don't? Because sometimes that stuff will hit the FYP. So that's a good way of driving people to shows, especially if it's an area that you don't already have a fan base where you're like, oh yeah, I know I've got, I know there's gonna be 100 people there because they were last time and they're coming this time, and they're gonna bring people with. If it's a new area you're coming into, that's a real good way of doing it. And also is reach out to the venue and make sure the venues are even promoting it. I don't know how many times I see that the band is the only one promoting. I don't understand why the venue wouldn't. But in a lot of cases that happens, or it's just because the band didn't ask the venue to. If there's a lot of people, if you're just not told to do it, you're not going to do it. So that's another big thing, is get the venue involved, whether they have a booking agent or someone that's actually answering their social media, or however you contact them to book the gig for a tour. But yeah, talk to them ahead of time even. When you're booking it, say, hey, do you promote your shows, or is this something that's going to be solely on me? and then you'll know what to expect as well.
Yeah, those are good points and stuff to think about. And like you said, I do think even if you're like total mainstream major label artist playing arenas, there still are fans of yours that are like, I had no idea Beyonce just played this sports arena, and you know what I mean? So that is obviously want to minimize that as much as possible, but that I think is unavoidable.
Yeah, I've got to where I actually go through. There's about 4 or 5 artists that about every 2 weeks I just straight up Google and I look on their website and I Google, are they coming to this area at all? So that way I don't miss anything anymore. Because I always hear about it like right after. Oh, why weren't you there? Because nobody told me about it.
Yeah, that's always the challenge, is getting the word out. And it's like you notice it when that happens, but obviously people do come to the show, and that's cool too, or that's more cool than missing it.
That's for sure. All right. Well, I think we're about out of time here. So thanks again for coming on. This was great. It was great finally getting to meet you. I've been following you on social media for a while, so I can't wait to get to see you live. I'm really excited.
I hope to make it to Wisconsin. I really I love to travel and do this, and hope to make it your way.
Yeah, well, let me know. We'll talk afterwards. I might be able to help make that happen too. So, but all right. Well, thanks again, Phantom, for coming on. Everybody, thank you for watching. Remember, please like, subscribe, share, give us feedback, good and bad. We want to know what we are doing good, and what we're not doing good at. And everybody say thank you again to Phantom for coming on. And everybody have fun. Take care.